Real Talk is proudly sponsored by Huawei P20 Pro and MTN.
Each week for 10 weeks, we're giving away the latest Huawei P20 Pro and 10 gigabytes once-off MTN data to 10 amazing storytellers. All you have to do is share your special moments with us. Follow at Huawei ZA and at MTN ZA and tag us with hashtag Huawei P20 and hashtag Real Talk Moments. We want to see and hear your stories and create lasting connections across the country. Each week there's a different theme, so keep checking our social pages for details and you could be a winner.
Hello everybody, good evening and welcome to Real Talk here on SABC 3. I am your host, Azania Mosaka. You know, we're just a few days away from kicking off September, which we also acknowledge in South Africa as Heritage Month. So as we look forward to that, tonight I'll be chatting to some traditional healers who'll be sharing their personal journeys with us. So what does it mean actually to be a traditional healer in the 21st century with all the modern tools that surround us? And the thing is, life is constantly introducing us to new or modern ways of approaching spirituality as a whole. So this will be a time for us to not only learn from our guests, but to also look within and reflect on our own perceptions about healing from an African perspective.
Bones that refuse to forget. A body of water, salt, mucus, whispers, they bury the marrow. Weeping into the silent chanting, I pray over these bones that broke. The bones that broke and endured the savage centuries. The bones recite the hymns of the blood, the looming, the ash. It takes of the sea, singing over these bones.
From being awoken by looming and ancient sound chants to fully realizing her purpose, my first guest has been known all her life as someone who touched the lives of others through her storytelling, and that has matured in several ways over the years. So please welcome multi-dimensional storyteller and healer, Vui Qubeka. Thokoza gogo. So tell me a little bit about that exhibition, No Ordinary Woman. What was it about?
The exhibition is on show in Cape Town at the PH Center. And essentially, the exhibition has created a space for women, established and emerging photographers, to create a safe space where we can engage in and confront the issues surrounding women, how women have been subjugated, how women's bodies are being raped, how we're being killed. So we've created a space to sort of give women the opportunity to reimagine themselves in different ways, to remember themselves in different ways, and to begin to reach into places within themselves that they might have forgotten, that they might have put away because society and media tells us that women need to be a specific kind of way. So the exhibition, No Ordinary Woman, is essentially creating a space for us to have the audacity to reimagine ourselves and
absolutely.
Exactly, and to live from the realist parts of ourselves.
And that was your interpretation, of course, with the poem that you wrote. But let's look at the journey you've traveled, because you first realized that you had a calling. Tell me a little bit about that, the sounds and the things that you were hearing.
Okay. So that was later on in my life. I think I've always sort of known I've had the calling,
Okay.
and just because, you know, life is sort of does things to us and we forget who we are, and forget our song and forget our purpose, I eventually did forget what my journey was or what my purpose here was. But as the ancestors do, at some point I could no longer ignore what I've been purposed to do here. And I was a travel writer and I worked at Gateway magazine, and I had this inclination, this strong inclination to start collecting instruments in all the various places that I was visiting. And I became quite sick. I was having really intense headaches that would put me in bed for days on end. And on one of my assignments, I was in Port St. John's. I then decided, no, I must go and see a traditional healer.
Just for a consult, like
for
a
a consultation,
consult.
yeah. I'd been, I've seen neurologists, I'd had brain scans, and nothing was working. Medication was also no longer working to heal my headaches. So I then decided, something told me that I need to go and see a Sangoma. I come from a family that doesn't consult, and we're not cultural or traditional in that sense, but something I knew. And initially I'd wanted to see a healer that heals with sound. I don't know, something just, I didn't even know if it existed, but something inside me wanted to see someone who heals with sound. And did you find
someone?
I didn't, but I did find someone who would eventually be my teacher.
Your mentor.
Exactly. And so I was collecting these instruments, and eventually I went and I got sick. I ended up in hospital for 2 weeks. And I surrendered to my calling. And it was during my time in initiation that I then began waking up with chants. I'd be sort of, not possessed, but entranced by these ancient sounds, as you've just said. And so I'd wake up and I'd have to sort of sit in it for a while until it lessened. And then I also started recording these sounds, because it felt like this is trying to tell me something. It's something that I felt
there might be a message in there.
Exactly, and I also felt like it's something that I needed to share with others at some point.
Right.
And that's at that point where I started recording it. And then there's one specific evening where I had my instruments and a friend of mine, who our friendship is very based on music. But I got all of my instruments out, and we were listening to something very beautiful. But something then was boiling within me, and I was able to then tap into these instruments that were in front of me and use them, although some of them I'd never used before, which is also something so beautiful about spirituality. And
so is this common? Have you as you travel, as you interact with other healers, have you managed to find people who've had a similar calling? That use a sound, or even potentially use sound to heal?
Yes, I do. I know of a few healers that do use sound to heal. There aren't a lot on the continent or in the country, but I know that internationally sound baths and sound healing is something very common.
Yes.
But then it's a yes and a no, because as Africans, sound and ulapa and to celebrate and rejoice or mourn using the sound. I mean, the drum is an example of
Yes, I think
that.
even in initiation, the playing of the drums to help you heal as you...
And that's how I healed. I was unable to be helped in the Western sense of healing, but I was healed off of the drum. Biskita every day. You trance dance to the drum almost 5 times a day, and I mean, even that in itself, it releases all the chakras. You are barefoot, so it's reflexology as well, and our ancestors were scientists in that way.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
There's just so many things, and we're going to have time on the show a little bit later to unpack them. But let's take this call. Samantha, you're calling from Alberton. Good evening. Welcome.
Good evening. How are you?
We're very good. Go ahead with your comment.
Okay. I just wanted to find out. I actually have 2 questions. My first question is it possible that when you have a gift, not to actually heal people, just have a gift and be aware of it and recognize it, and not to heal people? Second question is, has it ever happened where you went to a traditional healer and you got there and they tell you, you know what, absolutely nothing wrong with you, you can do what you like? Because you always find most of the time you go there, oh, there has to be something with you, you have to do this. Is there a time where traditional healers actually say, you know what, there's absolutely nothing wrong with you?
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Interesting questions. So the first one, can you undergo initiation and not heal people thereafter? You have a calling, but it's not required of you to either use water or to use bones, or in your case, use sound.
I think it's important for us to understand that we are spiritual beings, all of us.
Yeah.
We are spiritual beings having a human experience, and all of us, in some sense, have a calling. And the calling is, I often think about it in this way, that there is a council of elders, wherever it is that we come from, the spiritual realm,
Yes.
who decide and discuss where you're going. Are you going to be black? Are you going to be young? In what your life experience is going to be like. And in that conversation, it's then decided what your gift and your purpose will be.
Yes.
And gift also being your medicine.
Yeah.
Right? And I mean, you think of someone like Michael Jackson, that was an ultimate healer, but he didn't necessarily, you know, he wasn't initiated in that sense. But life initiates us all the time.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's a divorce, sometimes it's a loss of a loved one. But we all have a calling.
Yes.
And some people, like Sangoma, are messengers,
Yeah.
or the ancestors of, or God, or whatever you want to call her, the creator.
Yes.
And we then have to take this specific route. But there are various ways
But everyone,
to get, yes.
yeah,
Yeah.
as you said, has a calling, has a part to play, has a gift in their own right, and it is just in how they harness that and realize it in this flesh experience that we're having.
Exactly.
Right. So Samantha, I hope that answers your question. Oh, and the second one quickly about whether or not whether or not you can go to a healer and there be nothing wrong with you. Does it always have to be the case that there is something wrong with you?
So, I mean, if you feel compelled to go and see a healer, there's obviously something calling you to something.
Yes.
And most of the time, these things that are calling us is a call for us to awaken. It's a call for transformation. As we realize that, you know, this life experience, this system is not necessarily what we thought it was.
Yes.
So it's us waking up to the truth and us waking up to ourselves and us being called inward by our spirit.
Yes.
So that we can align with it in this life, so that we can use our medicine to heal ourselves and to heal other people as well.
And be our true selves.
And
Live our true, honest selves.
Exactly.
Well, you can share your views on modern traditional healing with us, just like Samantha did. Don't waste this opportunity. Are you for embracing our heritage and African spirituality? I want to know. So call the number on your screen or simply tweet at Real Talk on 3. And up next, we have someone who's known as the White Sangoma. Bronwyn Simon has been practicing for over 10 years, and she joins me after the break. See you then. Welcome back to Real Talk on SABC. Bronwyn Simon has from a very young age been in touch with the spiritual world. So as someone who comes from a family of healers, it almost came as no surprise that she too one day would offer spiritual services. And she's here with us. Thokoza Gogo.
Thokoza.
So how did you end up here? I mean, I think that's the first thing, that's the first obvious question.
It's been an amazing journey. I must say, since day one, I was in the media. I was still a twasser when I was in the papers, and I progressed to TV, radio. I've done it all.
So people have been writing about your journey for a long time.
Yes.
So
absolutely.
how did you end up being initiated in African spirituality?
I was very fortunate that I was led to the correct Gobela. I had a dream about this woman.
Yeah.
And I was lost and confused. 3 Sangomas had told me that I had this calling. And I landed up at the Baha'i church. I don't know if you're familiar with it.
Yes, I'm familiar with Baha'i.
Because I was lost, so I was looking for answers, and an African lady walked in one day, looked me straight in the eyes and said, "Come with me." And she drove me to the squatter camp in Soweto, and there was the lady from my dreams.
Just like that?
Yeah, my spiritual mother.
And who was this lady that led you to your teacher?
She was actually an African lady who had the calling but was running away from it. She decided to go the Buddhist route. But she knew my Gobela very well. Obviously, she was very ill all the time because she was avoiding her calling. And she kept going to my Gobela, and she was led to me and I was led
to your Gobela. So was it the same
through
woman
her.
you'd been dreaming about all that time?
The Gobela,
Yeah.
yes, it was.
Yes.
And she was very familiar with training white people. She had had a few white students prior to me.
So what was your belief system prior to that? Because African spirituality does involve ancestors.
I was very open to all of it. I actually jumped in, I threw myself into it. And I loved every minute of my twasa. Not many people are going to say that. Because we laughed and we loved throughout the whole process. There were very scary moments, but I felt safe with her.
Yeah. So before that, you're saying you were open to all sorts of disciplines and
I was very open
expressions
to all
of
spiritual
spirituality.
practices. My uncle was a minister in the Spiritualist Church.
Yeah.
So, you know, it was in my family to have this open-mindedness.
So who are the people you discovered that you walk with?
That I walk with.
Yes. Because as an initiate, or you're no longer an initiate, but as a healer, there
I
are
was
those that have...
fortunate that I twasted with another white Sangoma,
Yeah.
who is also a psychologist. Unfortunately, he has just stopped. His health no longer permits, because we specialize in the same field, which is quite extreme.
What is it?
Exorcism
Okay.
and demon removal.
So that's all right. So let's just backtrack a little bit, because what I'm saying to you is, as it's not self-initiated, going into traditional healing is not self-initiated. It is believed to be a gift that is bestowed on you, that is passed or given to you by ancestors. Hence, I say to you, who are the people that you've since discovered that you walk with? The ancestors, are they in your lineage? Are they people that...
It is incredibly complex.
Okay.
The people that I have about 25 people that I walk with. Some are Sumerian, a couple of Egyptian, and some Babylonian.
Okay.
So I'm presuming my soul is ancient. If those are my ancestors, you know, I can take from it that they are from previous lives.
Okay. So now let's come to the exorcism. How does it work? And the possession that you speak of?
I'm going to say it's quite simple. I'll get a call from someone and they'll say, you know, we're having problems, bipolar behavior, my husband, and then I will obviously know there's a checklist that I have of questions that I ask that make sure that person, and then I check the bones. And exorcism is quite simple, actually. You go into the room with the person, very relaxed, because you know what's in there, and you look them directly in the eyes, and slowly you start to just change your energy slightly and become a little bit challenging. And within minutes, the person is gone, and you're now talking to an entity. I've had a few friends experience it with me, and they say it's exactly like the movies. And it is. The person's face changes, their voice changes, everything changes. Each demon is different. You get the sly ones that you have to outthink. You get some really dumb ones, too. I've had some that
How would you define a demon? What's a demon?
It's a negative energy that is out to do harm. A lot of my exorcisms come from people with addictions.
And where does it come from?
In
How
the
does
early
someone become
days,
possessed
my
by a
Gobela
demon?
told me, stay out of places where there are addictions. Gambling, drinking, sexual addictions, drugs. So casinos, all of these places that people go to satisfy their addictions. That's where these things hang out.
And what they
And that's
latch
where
onto
you pick
people.
them up. Yes, I can't even walk into a casino. It's just insane. The
So
amount
once
of
you've
interest there.
exorcised it, where does it go?
That is the job of my ancestors. People ask me, and I say, to the demon junkyard. We have a rather large one, over 10 years.
Okay.
It's none of my business where it goes. It must just leave that person and be taken away.
All right, let's take a call. We've got a caller for you. April, you're calling from Durban. It's been an intriguing conversation so far. What are your thoughts? Welcome. April is not there, unfortunately. So last year you had to take a bit of a break, I understand. What was
Yes.
going on?
I had a stroke.
So you had to then obviously focus on your health and healing.
Yes, I did. I was paralyzed, and then that went away.
Yeah.
And it's obvious that I've still got work to do.
Was that a sign? Did you see it as a sign that you still have work to do?
Absolutely. I mean, gone from being paralyzed to standing up, and I said immediately, I'm going back to work.
How busy are you?
I'm quite busy because I'm all over the internet. Because of all the media coverage from day one, there's a lot.
And the scope of clients?
Majority Muslim.
That's interesting.
Yeah, most people say that.
As in people of Islamic faith?
Absolutely. Magic is ancient.
I see. Okay.
And it's been practiced by all people, regardless of color and creed. When I deal with Muslim magic, it's a bit of a challenge.
I see. Wow, I think you need to write a book or have a YouTube channel or something where you can break down all of these things.
Maybe it's time.
Maybe it's time. So after the break, an initiated healer, diviner, and medicine man of the Nguni lineage, and he'll be joining me to talk about his journey. We'll see you in a moment.
So you have those weird guys, like them, you know? These weird guys with beads and sing and they dance, and you can see on the outside what they're doing, but you can't really connect it to principle. You can't connect it to anything in the modern time. Take off their shoes. Next thing is and it's the drum. And the pastor says demons. Yeah, it's demons, you know? Because it's something that we don't understand, that we can't language. And when you ask them, so what is this that is happening? It's the spirit. What about it? It's the spirit, you know? Because there's the way in which they respond, they are also observing protocol of what is happening. So they are the ones that are holding what we call the sacred knowledge. They are in essence the spine and the backbone of African spirituality.
Welcome back to Real Talk with me, Azania, and thank you so much for staying with us. Well, my next guest is a Renaissance man in every sense of the word. As a former student of the Amen-Ra Institute that teaches African spiritual science, he has brought his gifts of healing to the people in a phenomenal way that draws from indigenous spirituality and the use of modern methods for teaching and healing. So please join me in welcoming Mkhulu Makhayagude to Real Talk. Thokoza Koko. So it's interesting that you talk about what people can witness and maybe misinterpret, or the experience in church. Your experience also straddles both. You have experience with the church and also with African spirituality. Just briefly take me through your journey.
So I was born in a Christian family, grew up in church, developed a passion for spirituality through church. And then, I just had this attraction and fire towards God and spirituality and social justice. But I've always had this connection towards indigenous stuff, you know, walking bare feet, being attracted to nature, reading people, supernatural powers, if I may put it that way. So, so even though I was immersed in the church, there was this part of me that would find a way to do this walking bare feet and reading about stuff that is not allowed, you know, and expressing that aspect of life.
So how was that church journey disrupted by the calling?
It was disrupted when one was trying to become what we call somebody in society, trying to get a job, trying to get an education, trying to make sense of oneself, basically. At one point, I assumed that I had a calling to become a minister. It's still a dicey thing, you know. So I decided, okay, I'm going to become a minister, white collar. And to become a minister in the church, you need to apply. So my application, I think 4 times, kept on
rejected, bounced.
Papers get lost. Someone doesn't want me to become a minister. There was always a story attached to it.
Yeah.
So that's when I felt that I needed to also consult, because I also grew up in a Christian home where we didn't observe African spirituality nor rituals. So yeah, that's what happened.
That's what happened. That's how you ended up here. So do you feel that there are a lot of misconceptions, especially in terms of how people receive, of course, like listening to you speak, listening to Bronwyn earlier, listening to Vui earlier, you know, people might think, laba.
I think so. I think one of the things that we need to accept is that spirituality is an industry, just like any other. And when it's an industry, you're bound to get the counterfeit, you're bound to get the real. So spirituality has also been used as a tool to misguide, to mislead. And unfortunately, you know, I don't want to say that we're naive, but because of how we were taught, maybe, that spirituality is supposed to be perfect, spirituality can't be touched. Therefore, I can, you know, if I just stand on the table here and I say, I've seen the light, and you just follow me, you know. So misconceptions for me come from that, in that we overlook the fact that spirituality can be corrupted. Anyone can put together 1 and 2 things and call it spirituality and ask you to follow them.
Yes, in fact, in the very talk that we opened up with that you gave, you do draw that distinction that in different religions, for instance, there are these commonalities that we all agree on. There are these things that bind us together, that bring us together. We all agree that this is the doctrine, this is the ritual, this is how you carry it out. And yet, with African spirituality, it's not like that. How you've been instructed, how I've been instructed will be different. There'll be areas of difference. And therefore, from someone coming in, they would perceive this to be a lack of order of sorts, which might create that kind of mistrust.
I resonate so much with your observation. With, say, Christianity and Islam, you get a doctrine that says this is how we're all supposed to behave. The goal of Christianity, for example, is to have all of us saved. But with African spirituality, the goal is for us to identify the purpose of your soul. Why did you come into the planet? And we work with that. We help you discover that. So our community exists to help you find the purpose of your soul more than we exist in order to have you behave perhaps in a particular way that agrees to everyone. So,
and I think that gets lost sometimes, isn't it? That the founding principle is to discover the purpose of your soul, but to also deepen the interconnectedness that you have to others. Because when you come and you want to know about how am I doing, am I well? The question is, but is your father well? Is your cousin well?
Absolutely.
So it's about
that, yeah. You know what I mean? And another example I can give you is when we gather and we say, Sawubona, or I see you, or the Tswanas would say, Dumela, meaning, please agree, you know, agree to the sacred space. And when I ask you, Ogai, you know, I'm asking you to locate yourself. What's your purpose? What's your role in this coming together? So, in as much as it's day-to-day greetings, but it has a deeper meaning to it, to say that individuals in society are always required to be in touch with their soul purpose. It's not just something that is reserved for the day of initiation, but it's an everyday experience, as it were.
So here you are. What is your gift? Because everybody, of course, we heard from Vui earlier on, who works with sound.
So my gift is I can hear, clear audience, clairvoyance. I can also see. I can read energy as well, as you sit there. I can also teach. I'd like to hope I'm a good learner. That's me, basically.
I have a situation. I see you, and I think that's the person who's going to help me with this. Before I call, would you have known? Would you have been told that I am coming with X issue and this is what you will need to prepare.
That's what we're trained to be able to do.
But it's not always like that.
Well, I customize my stuff because I feel I need to protect myself. So if I had to sit here and open myself up, then, you know, the Bluetooth network starts running, and your people talk to me, and her people are talking to me, and it gets very chaotic. So with me, when you ask to see me, I'm like, cool, let's meet at 2 o'clock, and let's rock.
Yeah. Like the Bluetooth scenario, would just weigh you down, all of these voices and
absolutely
streams of communication happening all at the same time. Jeez. So come back after the break as the healers return to the couch to discuss perceptions of African healing. And don't forget, the lines are open to you right through our conversation. Well, welcome back to Real Talk. How important is it to preserve knowledge of African spirituality and African traditional medicines for future generations? I'd love to hear your thoughts, so do give us a call. I do have my guests on the couch still, and we'll be interrogating a few of these issues in the time remaining. Welcome back, Fuyi. So a lot of people tend to also get confused when it comes to African spirituality about their understanding of God, because they borrow from the explanation and understanding and expression of God from religion. So please educate on what this expression is and what the understanding of God is within African spirituality.
I think what I understand of African spirituality is that we are all an expression of the Creator. So the sun, the grass, the air, the water, ourselves, we all are here to serve a purpose and to be in community and be in relationship with each other. And in African spirituality and as healers, part of that responsibility or our role is to protect the environment and to nurture, cultivate that ecosystem that includes us. And if the one part is hurt, then we are hurt, then we are not well. So it's to understand that the energy that we have that makes us breathe all night without having to think about it, that births or grows an embryo into a baby and is able to spread, you know, the womb and create space for a baby is the same infinite divinity within everything.
And for you?
For me, our understanding is that we are an expression of that which is not seen.
Okay.
So if in the planet you get a man or a masculine figure, it means in the unseen there's a masculine figure. If you are a woman or you get a woman in the planet, it means that in the spiritual realm you also get a feminine principle. So in African spirituality, we don't have just purely male, you know, Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit, who's in some spaces assumed to be a man.
Yes.
So for us is umenzi and unomkhubulwane, which is the female and the male principle. So hence you have us here, because then we represent that which is unseen. So with light, for example, so you get light, and then you get the heat. You cannot see the heat, but you feel it.
Yeah.
You see that?
Yeah.
So that then becomes the Holy Spirit, you know? So what we create as man and woman, what we call chemistry, the energy between us, that which we cannot see, that becomes the Holy Spirit. So for us, the Holy Spirit is not necessarily an energy that is separate from us. We express it. It is involved in our creativity. It is involved in our sexual acts. You know, in Zulu it is called umbilini. The Indians call it kundalini, and it is an energy that is in our body. You see that. So so that's our understanding of God.
So how, for instance, when you were at the Amin-Ra Institute, do you bring science into spirituality?
African spirituality even if it's not ancient Kemet or ancient Egypt, African spirituality all across is scientific, you see. For us, the question of superstition is created by people who don't understand our spirituality.
Yeah.
Two, we're also definitely guilty of creating superstition because we had to protect it from people who were distorting it. So every single thing that you do, for example, when you twasa, there's a reason why.
Yes.
When you burp, there's a reason why. So sometimes we don't tell you these things because we want your soul to discover these things for itself. So just in conclusion, that's the difference between African education and Western education. With Western education, you get told that the goal of this course is for you to be able to behave this way. With us, it's in the reverse.
Yeah.
We give you a space and context. Your soul will tell you how you need to behave and how you need to respond.
Right.
So that's why you and I can go through the same initiation process, but it's not the same thing that will come out.
It's not the same thing, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Let's go to Mbatu. Mbatu, you're calling from Polokwane. Good evening to you.
Hi.
Yes, welcome.
Yes, I just wanted to ask about, well, I've been having dreams in the middle of the night where I'm awake, but I can't move, and there's this entity, it's dark, and it keeps strangling my neck, and this one time it pointed its finger at, I think it was my womb area, and I felt the most excruciating pain. So I don't know what that's all about.
Okay. And is it a recurring dream for you, Mabato?
Yes.
It's a recurring dream. Okay, let's see what our guests have to say about that. And I'm sure there's a particular type of problem that people come to you with. But first, let's respond to Mabato's question. What should she do in that case?
Yeah, sure.
Well, Mkulu works with wombs, so I think Mkulu can answer. But I think also just to add, there's a universal trauma that we are experiencing, and these energies also manifest themselves in their bodies, and they can manifest in dreams or disease. But the same way that women have been subjugated for centuries,
yes.
I know a lot of my clients also are dealing with womb trauma, and so. Physically, we're dealing with this, but also as the universe itself, Gaia, as the feminine archetype of the mother, if you may. She's also experiencing that. So a lot of the consciousness of society is at that energetic level, and it manifests itself in those ways, and sometimes it comes as dreams. But I don't know if you want to add on to that, Mkulu.
Yeah, but obviously we would need to ask a few questions in order for us to identify her context and what causes that. But from the top of my head, she has a masculine figure that what we call sleep paralysis. Sometimes it's a literal spirit that comes, and then it literally strangles you or whatever. But she does have a masculine figure that comes to her at night, and it does exactly
as
that.
She says, yeah.
As she says, yeah. So she first needs to go for a cleansing, because when something comes together with you and it's dark, obviously it leaves some of the darkness into your system. So she first needs to get a cleansing, and then she needs to protect her space.
Right.
And she'll be fine.
She'll be fine. There are answers, there are things that can be done to resolve these kind of issues. So after the break, we'll talk about modern versus traditional consultation methods. I wonder what you think on that. We'll be back shortly. Well, cultural experts have mentioned time and time again that culture is not static and often has to adjust to time. Does the time we live in then necessitate an adjustment in how traditional healers approach consultations? Remember that you can share your views as well on our social media pages, and on Twitter it's @RealTalkOn3. So let me tell you why, guys, why I raised that issue, because Dr. Velaphi Mkhize, who's the founder and the president of Umsamo Institute and the South African Healers Association, he was quite unequivocal, and he said, and I quote, "Consulting on social media is off limits Consulting, that's what he was referring to, is supposed to be done face-to-face. Social media consultations are done by fly-by-nights. Ouch. It plays on people's desperation, end quote. What do you guys think? What do you say to that, especially in the modern era that we're living in? I've heard of people consulting via Skype, on the phone. Do you do that as well? And what do you think of this viewpoint?
I do Skype. I've got international clients. But if I know that you're in South Africa and you can come to me, then we definitely do it face to face. Obviously, it's difficult for me to comment on the position Gababa, but my assumption is that he's trying to protect, as he says, people that take advantage of desperate people. So for me, if we can sit one-on-one, we do it. If we can't, I mean, some people have desperate situations, like a lady calls here, that just called now.
Yeah.
You need to apply yourself, instantly and be able to help someone instantly. So,
because there are repercussions, right? There are repercussions if you don't.
Well, I hear people saying that. Not in my. I haven't seen it in my experience.
Okay.
You know? Yeah.
So
But
yours would be happy with you saying, "No, I'm busy. I'm doing real talk. I'm doing this. I'm doing that." Stuff that has nothing to do with it.
I mean, it's a relationship. If I'm lying to you, my people can see that I'm being lazy. I don't want to work. If I'm really tired, then I'm really tired. You see that? So.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we've got Namhla also holding on the line. Good evening, Namhla. Yes. Welcome. Go ahead.
I would like to know, I've been having some dreams. I actually dream of things before they happen. I would like to know if that means anything.
Okay.
It scares me.
So just to be clear, you say you dream about things before they happen?
Yes, before it's either about me to me or to the people around me. And then when I tell them, they say, yes, it actually did happen, or yes.
All right. And you're just content to leave it that way? You haven't done anything else?
I've never done. I was raised in the Christian way. We don't consult in my family. But now the people that I've dreamed about and told these things to, they're telling me that I actually have something, that I should do something about it. But I haven't been sick and I've never consulted. So I don't know. I'm Kasanga either.
Namhla, thank you very much for that. Mkulu, we heard the burp.
Oh. The entourage just checked in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Was it in response to Namhla? What are your thoughts, your reflections on the fact that she dreams about things before they happen?
It makes me, I'm thinking about Mkulu Babu Credu Mutwa, and he speaks a lot on the subject of us and Africans and our gift of seeing, and we are all, like I mentioned before, we are all spiritual beings, and we do have the ability to see, to sense. We all have magical gifts, if you may.
Yes.
The unfortunate part is that the food that we now eat, it's the things in our water. Yes, so our third eyes have been closed. We are able to see, and I think in 2018 there's a bit of a panic when you have certain gifts. There's a tendency to think that you have to go and twasa, or that it means guti, manje funeka ube yisangoma, you must be a sangoma. But that's not necessarily true. It's about going inward and listening, because sometimes you might want to go to a consultation, and yes, sangomas can help you or healers can help, but it's also important to be able to be silent and go into the quiet, because we all have our own guides, and to listen to what maybe perhaps the dream is telling you.
So what is the tipping point then? So if you're living and you're in tune and you're listening to your inner spiritual guides, that versus then going to Twasa, what is that line that says this is go Twasa?
I think more you get sick at some point. Some people get really sick that you find yourself. I mean, for me, I couldn't wear shoes at some point.
Debilitating, as you said.
It was debilitating, and you either start to hear things, and it becomes very clear that you need to go and take this journey. But it doesn't have to be that way, because it starts with a bit of a tap.
Yes,
and then
it's a whisper.
yes. Yeah.
It becomes a shout.
And most of us have these stories now that, I had to get sick first before I pick in the call. But that's sometimes because maybe our families are religious and we don't have the support and the community to hold us and guide us in the right direction.
Is there room for religion?
Absolutely.
Can they reside
Absolutely.
together in one?
I rock it. I've been rocking it.
You go to church on Sundays.
Yeah.
Clappy.
Like I said, look, religion in the modern day is being used as that. Oguti, when you've got an education, when you can speak English fluently, when you live in the suburb, naturally you need to go to church. So religion, to a certain degree, is a sign of progress and modernity. You see that? But if our goal is to help people heal, it does not matter how people heal. Whether someone heals through Islam or Christianity, it does not matter. So I think we need to...
And one should not be deemed superior than the other.
You've got it, you see? So yeah, man, it's sad how religion is being used in the modern day. And the fear that is being, created around the fact that if you are African and you follow African healing systems, then you backwards, you dumb, and I think it's really sad, But just to add on what she was saying, with relation to someone that sees things and should they go twasa, I would, I agree with her. Anyone can see. Everyone can see. Everyone has a gift of seeing. Everyone can dream of something that's going to happen tomorrow.
But it's been made so hip. Social media's helped to make it so hip. Lots of people are like, anything. What? Oh, yes, that's a sign.
I think it's also, it's sorry to interrupt you, Mkhulu, it's a sign of the times. I think we're hemorrhaging, we're in pain, so we're looking and we're grasping for answers.
People need healing.
We need healing. And there were certain things that were taken away from us, our drum, our culture, and these things that...
The return is happening.
The reclamation
is happening. Thank you so much to both of you. Wow. So I'd like to thank all of my guests, in fact, not just the two guests that we're concluding with. And thank you so much to them for opening and sharing their journeys with us. And some have proclaimed that the process of adopting, which is what we'll be touching on tomorrow in South Africa, is absolutely challenging. So join us tomorrow because we're going to unpack the journey of adoption to find out if that is true. So that's tomorrow here on Real Talk at 6 p.m. From me, Azania, and the rest of the team, it's good night. Thank you for watching.
Real Talk is proudly sponsored by Huawei P20 Pro and MTN.
Each week for 10 weeks, we're giving away the latest Huawei P20 Pro and 10 gigabytes once-off MTN data to 10 amazing storytellers. All you have to do is share your special moments with us. Follow at Huawei ZA and at MTN ZA and tag us with hashtag Huawei P20 and hashtag Real Talk Moments. We want to see and hear your stories and create lasting connections across the country. Each week there's a different theme, so keep checking our social pages for details and you could be a winner.